All right, so we give praise, esteem, and honor to the Most High Yah, in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach this day. Let's get the 5th chapter of John and the 39th verse. Search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and there they which testify of me. And you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, that you have not the love of Elohim in you. I come in my Abba's name, you receive me not. If another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one of another and seek not the honor that comes from Elohim only? Do not think that I will accuse you, Abba. There is one that accused you, even Moses, in whom you trust. Had you believed Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote of me. But if you believe not his writings, how shall you believe my words? Proverbs 14:1, every wise woman builds her house. A foolish woman plucks it down. So let's take a trip to Ezekiel chapter 40. Ezekiel 40 and 44. And without the inner gate were the chambers of the singers in the inner court, which was at the side of the north gate, and their prospect was towards the south. And on one side, one at the side of the east gate, having the prospect towards the north. So let me ask this question. Does anybody know what the singers did in the temple? Is anyone aware of what they did? No, a particular person instituted that long after Torah was given. And we'll probably get to that. Shalom, man. We'll probably get to that sometimes this afternoon, if you will permit. Some of them were. I want y'all to look at this here for the word for singer. And it is someone who sings. I want you to look at the characters of Sean, Yad, and Rosh, and you may proceed. Sean, Yad, and Rosh. Just who knows who sung the first song in the book? You say Asa? Anyone else?
Well, at least I guess you can count the song.
You can. Does anybody know who sung the first song? That would be the correct answer. Moses sung the first song. Does anybody know what the first song is? Miriam did sing a song, but she didn't sing the first one. Exodus 15 is when the first song was ever sung. While you're thinking on Sean, Yad, and Rosh, come over here to Exodus 15. Because it's still relevant to what we're talking about. Remember, that definition is to sing. Simple as that. A singer or a songstress. I want you to pick up Exodus 15 and 1. It says, then sang Moses and the sons of Yasharal this song unto Yahuwah. So the singer's purpose in the temple is to do what? To sing unto Yahuwah. Indeed. And spake, I will sing unto Yahuwah, for he hath triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider have he thrown in the sea. So who is that who he's thrown in the sea? Pharaoh. But also, this is pointing you to who else he threw in the sea. Because he threw Satan and he threw death in the sea. You know what I'm saying? Or the devil who had power over, or he that had power over death, that is the devil. Continuing. Yahuwah is my strength and song, and he has become my salvation. He is my Elohim. I will prepare him an habitation, my Abba's Elohim, and I will exalt him. Notice that what he said, he'll prepare for him a what? A habitation. So, pause. Come over here to Psalms 40. Mordecai. Find yourself in your raisins a place to dwell. Psalms 40:1. I waited patiently for Yahuwah, and he inclined unto me, and he heard my cry. He brought me up also out of a horrible pit, out of the miry clay, and set my feet upon a rock, and established my goings. He hath put a new song in my mouth, even praise unto our Elohim. Many shall see it, fear, and shall trust in Yahuwah. Baruch is the man that make Yahuwah his trust, and respect not the proud, nor turn aside to lies. Now let's take a look at Sunday. We'll deal with the first half of this here, right? Because he said he's made me a habitation. So the first thing I want you to look at is notice that he said that being brought out of this horrible pit allowed him to put a new song in his mouth. Let's take a look at new here. Let me slide over there for that. No, I'm looking for the word for a new song. Could be the same thing. Now the word for new here is kadash. It's a new, same word for song, but a new thing, something fresh. Y'all still working on Shur, the Sean, Yad, and Raj, but go ahead and add this Kot, Dalit, and Sean to your itinerary as well. And we'll pause and we'll wait for this one. Kot, Dalit, and Sean. Thank you, sir. What you got for that? Kot, Dalit, and Sean. Remember, it's new. It's a fresh thing. I also want you to grab yourself Deuteronomy 22:8. Kot, Dalit, and Sean. Anyone else? Kot, Dalit, and Sean. Well, you disrobing? You're a disrober? Kot, Dalit, and Sean. Anyone else? I want you to hold Deuteronomy 22:8. We're going to slide around there in just a moment. So you know you have separation. So for Dalit, what would you say? For Sean, what would you say? To the hanging? We'll take that one there just because where we came from or what we're looking at in Psalms 40, because he just said he brought you out of a horrible pit. Yeah, but see, that's in Exodus. So in Psalm 40, the verse before that, he talking about how he brought him out the grave and put a new song in his mouth. That new song is going to be pertaining to the gospel, what you were mentioning earlier this morning or this afternoon. Because I bring this up, we won't go into great detail since you mentioned that this earlier today. How many of y'all remember why Yahusha had to go preach to the spirits in prison? Matter of fact, let me ask this here. Who don't remember why Yahusha had to go preach to the spirits in prison? That would be better asked. And any of y'all on here know, do not know, I'll get the verse for you right now. It's in 1 Peter chapter 4. Muffin, do you remember? It's been a long time, so. It's 1 Peter 4:6, right? Well, 4 and 5. He says, who shall give account to him that is ready to judge the quick and the dead? For this cause was the gospel preached also to them that are dead, that they might be judged according to men in the flesh, but live according to Elohim in the Ruach. So when he say judge according to men in the flesh, all men have to face the judgment with his death. But to live the Elohim and the Ruach, how would you live according to Elohim and the Ruach? You can only receive the Ruach HaKadosh by believing in the Son to live. Now, let's look at something in Hebrews chapter 11. Hebrews 11 and 38, I suppose. He said, of whom the world was not worthy. They wandered in deserts and in caves. And in mountains and in dens and in caves of the earth. And these all, having obtained a good report through faith, received not the promise. Elohim having provided some better thing for us, that they without us should not be made perfect. So what is the promise? See, brother just hit me with this the other day. I'm gonna read it to you what he thought he had came up with. He said he believed that Adam was born of God and that he was born of the Spirit. And Adam and Eve didn't engage in sex till after they sinned. So he looking at it is when he told them to be fruitful, that was the fruits of the Spirit and to multiply every living creature about them when they were made to live forever. Now, if Adam was born of the Spirit, then what's the purpose of the Lord coming? He wouldn't have ate from the tree and would have eaten. And if they were made of the Spirit, because he's looking at, okay, once they did that and they sinned, that's why they went and had sex. Oh, they were going to have sex regardless. You know what I'm saying? Because they were men. They were flesh and blood. But see, I mentioned that for this reason. Because did Adam obtain the promise? No, he did not. Did Abraham obtain the promise? Not even the promise of the Ruach. Did he even get what Yah promised him? The only thing he got that Yah promised him was a son. Did Isaac get the promise? Did Jacob get the promise? They didn't even get the natural things that Yahuwah promised them. But when you look at that promise of that Ruach HaKadosh, none of those men received that. So now we have to look at the justice of Yahuwah. See, let's look at why. See, Yahushua give you an inkling why he had to preach to the spirits in prison as well. I think it's Luke chapter 11 that I desire. I could be off of chapter 2, but let me see. Yeah, I'm off of chapter 2. Hey, why does she have to keep telling y'all the same thing over and over again? So clearly somebody is doing the exact opposite of what we just talked about because you're not obeying. Now, what you need to do is focus on the word of Yahuwah and not this nonsense that you own. Because when you go stand in front of Mr. Charlie and all them white folks, y'all sit up with your heads up high and your ears open. So clearly, you love what your teachers have to tell you more than Yahuwah. So I hope you like swimming in hell with them when you go join them there. Because that's where they're going. All your teachers are going to hell more than likely. Because they hate Yahuwah and they don't believe in him. And if you want to keep on and treat this like this is a hangout session with you and your friends where you can snack on chips and play with toys, then you'll be doing backstrokes in hell with your teachers. You know what I'm saying? And I'm telling you right now, I ain't going to feel sorry for you. And if I have to toss your black behind in there, I'm going to throw you in there with a smile because you earned it. I ain't going to have no problem with it. So I ain't gonna shed no tear, but that's your niece. Ain't none of my niece. Ain't none of my nephew. I don't know you. Take us a Joker game if you want to. Now, since y'all like to mess around, so we don't have to sit up here so y'all can hear the word. That's for your benefit. Y'all can just skin and grin and go to hell on your own volition. Because you need to stop being rude and disrespectful. It's unbecoming and distasteful. No, I don't need Luke 11. I'm looking for the chapter I want right now. Luke 11 ain't got what I'm looking for. Hold on, y'all. Luke 13 is what I need. Luke 13 and 24. Luke 13 and 24. He went through the cities and villages, teaching and journeying towards Jerusalem. Sit down and be quiet. Then said one unto him, Lord, are there few that be saved? And he said unto them, strive to enter in at the straight gate. For many, I say unto you, will not seek to enter in. For many, I say unto you, will seek to enter in and shall not be able. Now, some of y'all done seen that. Because when you talking about that straight gate, a lot of people seek it and they find out this is too restrictive for me. I can't do it. You know what I'm saying? Because I want to do this and I want to do that and I want to do this. And all that just shows you don't love your father, nor do you love instruction, nor do you love guidance. You know what I'm saying? What did we look at and read out of what it was? In the Hosea 13, said they made gods according to their own understanding. See, that's how you make an idol in your own heart, because you do things according to your own understanding, your own insight. You know what I'm saying? Oh, it's not a big deal if I do this right here. It's not a big deal if I do this right here. You're absolutely right. You know what I mean? I done told you. And that's what they teach in them schools too. And they've been teaching it for decades. Whether you've been paying attention or not, they teach you to be a humanist. And they especially teach it more and more once you get in a college system. You know what I'm saying? That's why I said that. That's why I mentioned that before. You had to sit back and look at that. College and school is not for education. It's for indoctrination into Satanism and being an atheist. You know what I'm saying? You can sit around and skin and grin about it if you want to, but if you study history, no one in the history of mankind ever created a school system and sent their children to the government and said, educate them. You know what I'm saying? That's a new thing. That's not what happened in antiquity. The quote unquote school system is probably only a century old. You know what I'm saying? And I mentioned y'all the other day. No, I was talking to somebody about that. When they came with that women's lib and feminism and all that and this, that, and the third, that was to get the woman out the house. One, because they felt like they weren't taxing enough of the population. The more people we can tax, the more money we can make. Therefore, that's why you have inflation, because the more people who are working, they have to print more money. You know what I'm saying? Because it's fiat currency. That's where inflation comes from. It comes from more money being printed. The less money being printed, the less your goods and services will cost. And that's why things are expensive. Things are expensive because they print more debt notes. And why is it more expensive? Because you told your daughter, you're a woman, hear me roar, go out in the world and conquer it. You know what I'm saying? What did they tell your black women? Oh, you're independent. You don't need no man. Get your own money. That was for your own destruction. You didn't know it because you were simple. And why were you simple? Because who's going to take the time to research and read all of that? You're just worried about going outside and play and getting through the next day. And they know that, and they exploit you on it. You know what I'm saying? That's why niggas don't know nothing, because you like to be entertained. And you have no idea of the things that go on around you, because that's not fun for you. So you don't care to learn it. So that's why you stay at the bottom. That's outside of what Yahuwah do to you. You know what I'm saying? You like to be entertained. You know, I want to look at this and want to look at that. That was time invested that you could understand how the world works against you and how you can navigate around that. And especially show that to your children. But you know what? You don't want to do that. You want to do what the white folks tell you to do and teach them ABCs and sing to them corny fairy tales and things of that nature. So they just as dumb as you and the generation that came before you. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. But they did that for a purpose. Because now once the woman get out the home and then they did things to split the father away from the woman, then who is left to parent the child? The government. And that was their objective. You know what I'm saying? Let us raise your child. Let us teach your child. And then we will give your child the mindset and thought pattern that we want you to have. And what was the mindset and pattern they wanted you to have? Graduate high school and go to college and get in debt to get a job to pay off the debt. So when you leave here, I hit you with 9 inches of ungreased penis in your butthole and you have nothing to show for it when you leave here. And then you turn around and you tell that to your children and send them to go do the same thing. That doesn't even make common sense that you would have to get $40,000, $50,000 in debt to get a job. And now you spend the next 30, 40 years to pay off the debt to train you for the job that you needed to go to school for to get in debt with to start with. That's all the hustle. It's indoctrination, keep you a part of their system. That's why they don't like certain people talking about certain things, because you bucking the system. It's what we used to call on the block short stopping. See, if you standing in front of people and telling them, nah, come over here and learn this information over here. That's why I laugh at niggas when they say the school system should teach you how to manage your money and teach you how to file taxes. Why would they teach you that? That goes against the plan, dummy. That's not their job. But why do you say that? Because you look for the United States government to be your daddy and raise you and tell you what to do and show you how to navigate through life. That's not their job. That's not their job. That's your job. You know what I'm saying? Period. That's not their job. But why do you do that? Like I mentioned last night, we selfish. You want to take your responsibilities that you're supposed to do and hand them off to someone else. And then it's easier for you in your own mind to blame them for what they're not doing because that was your job to do it in the first place. So you need a boogeyman. You need somebody to blame. That's your job. If you want your children to learn about taxes, then you teach them then. You want them to learn how to manage a bank account, then you teach them then. Because guess what most rich white folks are doing with their children? They teach them that. And if they can't teach it to them, they hire somebody who can. That's the difference. But you got to understand that's indoctrination. That's why I mentioned that to the children. Y'all know they teaching them kids about trannies and punks in their schools. Some schools, they do it more overtly. Some schools, they do it subvertly. But they slide their stuff in there because this is a liberal country. So they slide liberal agendas to these children. And then your child coming home talking about what's a tranny. You know what I'm talking about? And all this whole other stuff. And you want, like I said, they come after guess what? The number one way to destroy a people is to come after their heart, their mind, and their soul. That's why the book tell you that the war that we fight, it's not carnal, it's spiritual. You don't war against flesh and blood, but principalities and spiritual wickedness in high places. You have to know that and understand that. Continuing on though, Luke 13, verse 25. He say, when once the master of the house is risen up and have shut the door, you begin to stand without and knock out the door, saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. And he shall answer and say unto you, I know you not whence you are. Abigail, leave your nipple. Then you shall begin to say, we have eaten and drunk in your presence, and you have taught in our streets. But he shall say, I tell you, I know not whence you are. Depart from me, all you workers of iniquity. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth when you shall see Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and all the prophets in the kingdom of Elohim, and you yourselves thrust out. Now, how can Yahushua make this statement? Did they receive the promise? Was there a kingdom of Elohim ever preached to them? Absolutely not. But he had to go preach to the spirits in prison. For those who do remember, who can give me 2 or 3 witnesses that justify Yahushua going to preach to the spirits in prison? Who can recall? Zechariah 9 and 11, that's one of them, but that ain't the one I'm looking for. But that's the one where he tell you, you prisoners of hope, come up out the pit where there is no water. But I'm talking about there's 2 direct examples of an individual preaching to the spirits in prison. 2 direct. Joseph is one. Let's take a look. What is that? Genesis 40. So again, remember, this is him coming up out of a pit, singing a new song, a fresh thing. So let me ask you this here. What did Yahushua say about John? When he was talking to the people about John, he made a statement. Does anyone recall what the statement was? It's in Matthew 11, if my memory serves me correctly. What he said about John. Matthew 11, if my memory serves, it is. Matthew 11:16, if my memory is even more accurate. All the prophets prophesied until John. Now the kingdom of Elohim is preached and all men are pressed into it. Because this is a new thing. You have to sit there and pause, right? What do they like to ridicule Paul about the most? No. Something else. That's about 1B. But it was something else. The most fantastical thing in the mindsets of men on the earth.
Oh, everybody can be saved?
Not even that. It's one thing that they mocked him for regularly, everywhere he went. Paul, when he was out preaching, it stayed in the book. Why he said, what did you just say?
The first thing I said was him saying you gotta keep the law.
Yeah, they ridiculed him about him as if he was speaking against the law. And I would say that would be 1B. But there was one thing that they mocked him for regularly, that he preached on a consistent basis. He was mocked for it all the time. The resurrection of the dead. Do you know what I'm saying?
I was thinking talking about that because niggas got resurrected from the dead in the Old Testament.
But no one went around preaching that. Do you know what I'm saying? Paul went around preaching Yahushua crucified and resurrected, and you can be resurrected through him. That is a new thing. No one in the Old Testament preached about resurrecting from the dead. Nobody before the Lord preached about resurrecting from the dead. And what did he tell his apostles over and over again what he was going to do? On the third day, I will rise. And then what did he tell them to go teach? Yahushua crucified and resurrected. That is a new thing. So when we look at, he brought me up out of that horrible pit, out of the miry clay. He put a new song in my mouth.
Yeah, I guess it is a very.
Yeah, I mean,
nobody in the grave.
No, ain't nobody sitting here telling you, boy, you're going to resurrect from the dead and live forever. That sounds crazy to people now. Do you know what I'm saying? I listened to two dudes last night on the hot seat. He said, we don't have no problem with Jesus. His fourth is in the text. It's when you go to talking about the and then he went ahead and said what I knew he was going to say. You don't believe. That's what you got a problem with. He said, I like everything you teach. You don't keep the law. You don't believe in Yahuwah. That's your problem. See, you thought them commandments were just enough. See, Yahushua came with a new thing. And what did he say? No man straightway like new wine. He desire what? The old. He said, that's better. I know it's better, you big dummy. And that's why you're going to be burning in hell. Talking about, oh, I thought it was fake. I know you did. I said, the old wine a little stronger. I like that old wine. Shoot. I go back in the tent with my wife. You know what I'm saying? It's going down. Abigail, go open the door. Go open the door. Michael, go open the door. Thank you, sir. You do got what it takes to get up and open the door. So where was I going? Genesis 40. After Genesis 4:40, Job 28. 40 and 6. Mordecai, find yourself somewhere to sit down. Yeah, but ain't nobody taking those pictures of you like you posing for a catalog. He definitely posing like this here. You try to get him ready for the Sears catalog? Joseph came in unto them in the morning and looked upon them, and behold, they were sad. He asked Pharaoh's officers that were with him in the ward of his Lord's house, saying, wherefore look you so sadly today? They said unto him, we have dreamed a dream, and there is no interpreter of it. Joseph said unto them, do not interpretations belong to Elohim? Tell me them, I pray you. And the chief butler told his dream to Joseph, and he said to him, in my dream, behold, a vine was before me, and in the vine were 3 branches. And it was though it budded, and her blossoms shot forth, and the clusters thereof brought forth ripe grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and I gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. Joseph said unto him, this is the interpretation of it. The 3 branches are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up your head and restore you under your place. And you shall deliver Pharaoh's cup into his hand after the former manner when you was his butler. Now that's plain what that's telling you right there. That is crystal clear. That is plain to him who had understanding. He said the 3 branches are 3 days. And after those 3 days, you will come up out this prison and be put back in your place. Now notice that where he's at, he's in prison. Remember he said he had preached to the, see, pause. We haven't looked at this in a long time. We'll go ahead and grab it. Ecclesiastes chapter 4. Just for another witness. Bear with me. We're going to try to do a lot in a little bit of time. Ecclesiastes 4 and 14. Make it 4 and 13. Ecclesiastes 4 and 13. It said, better is a poor and wise child than an old man, old and foolish king, who will no more be admonished. For out of prison he come to reign. Whereas also he that is born in his kingdom become poor or become humble. Now notice it said, now why out of the blue is he talking about somebody coming out of prison to reign or to rule? What happened with Joseph? He came out of prison. What did he end up doing? Reigning and ruling. Now he called it the spirits in prison. That's where you would come back to the Zechariah 9 and 11. He say, you prisoners of hope who are in the pit where there is no water. Yahushua come out the prison to reign. So remember in Matthew 27, right? When Yahushua resurrected from the dead, about 27:52, what did it say happened? Graves opened and other saints rose. Now, how could these other saints rise with him? Because it said, these dead men will live with my dead body. So how could these saints who never heard the gospel rise with him? Because he had to go down there and tell them. See, that already a good report of faith before they died. So you knew they were going to believe the gospel once he slid up on them and gave it to them. You know what I'm saying? It ain't going to be like, I don't believe none of this here. Well, you didn't believe when I got here. So before I got here. So I know you're not going to believe now.
Who lives the gospel.
Already. Abraham going to believe it. Isaac going to believe it. David going to believe it. Zadok going to believe it. Isaiah and Jeremiah. You know what I'm talking about? Yahushua, son of Jehozadak, Zerubbabel. These people, they going to believe it already because they believed it before they hit the grave. Nehemiah going to believe it. Ezra going to believe it. They just didn't have the understanding. That's why when dudes be like, boy, I wish I lived back such and such time. No, you don't. Be glad that you were born after the resurrection because that means the scriptures were made plain to you. You got, what did Yahushua tell his apostles in what? Matthew 15. Or Matthew 13, one of them, he said, many righteous men have desired to see the things that you have seen and have not seen them. Many righteous men have desired to hear the things that you have heard and have not heard them. The Apostle Peter wrote in his own apostles, the angels wanted to look into these things that we talking about because they didn't know. See, a lot of brothers overlook that and try to poo-poo it and minimalize it, but it's a blessing to live after the day of his resurrection before he went back to heaven. That's a blessing. Not to say that it's not a blessing to serve Yahuwah before that time, but you're in a much better space after than before. Much, much better space. To actually be born after Yahushua's birth, life, death, burial, and resurrection than to be alive before. Unless you were there when it happened and you could have heard Peter them on Pentecost and everything that was going on with that. Because, you hear, I'm just saying with brews, a lot of brews would be like, boy, I wish I could have been back there during the time of Moses. No, you don't. No, you don't. You sound like a fool. You know what I'm saying? Well, if I was around during the time of the prophets, you can't even be confident enough to say that you wouldn't have. Because remember, what did Yahushua say about the scribes when they say we wouldn't have been with our fathers killing the prophets? And he's saying you bear witness that you their children. Because I hear a lot of people, I wouldn't have killed the Lord like they did. You probably would have. You know what I'm saying? You probably would have. The right mindset is to say, who are willing, I would have not, because you don't know what you would have done. You don't know what you would have done, because you don't know at what time period of life he would have caught you when that went down. If you would have been alive when the Lord was walking the earth before you heard the word, you'd have been right out there with them people talking about crucifying. You've been right out there with it. You know what I'm saying? No problem, no hesitation. Why? Because the things that he was saying would have offended you. You know what I'm talking about? And why would you have been offended? Because you were contrary to what he was saying, and you wouldn't have had a mind and a heart to amend your behavior to be in line with it. Back to Genesis chapter 4. Verse 14. Matter of fact, we don't need verse 14. That's the conclusion. That's all we needed. Job 28 and 22. We still got Deuteronomy 22. Mario, you sound like a dog that's about to be put down at the vet's office. Job 28 and 20. I just read this to y'all the other day, I believe, not too long ago. And see, that go back to what you were talking about with the acceptable year Yahuwah, because that quote says 61, where he said that he came to set the captives free. He said he anointed me to bring good tidings or the Basar, to preach that gospel. Acceptable year, Yahuwah in that verse, acceptable is the delight. You know what I'm saying? What is the day that Yahuwah delighted in? The day that he delivered the captives, gave sight to the blind. What did Yahushua say? That if he set you free, you'll be what? Free indeed. And you know that's one of the most verses out this book that's taken out of context. The truth shall set you free. And rarely, whether people believe the word or not, rarely do people ever use that word, that verse, in the context of what he was actually stating. What was he actually stating in that? He'll set you free from sin and death. And it's amazing how many brews who teach the word don't even look at that. Because he said he that commits sin is what? The servant of sin. And the servant abide not in the house forever. He said, if the Son shall make you free, you shall be free indeed. Because he said, if you believe the truth, he said, then you'll be my disciples, which is his taladim, that's his taught ones. And what did Paul tell you? Is a Mashal and minister of sin? Elohim forbid. He ain't taught you that. You didn't learn that from him. What was that? Job 28 and 20. Whence come wisdom and where is the place of understanding? Seeing it is hid from the eyes of all living and kept close from the fowls of the air. Listen what it said. Destruction and death say, we have heard the fame thereof with our ears. Now notice who it said heard death and destruction. They say, we heard the fame. Let's look at the word for fame. Didn't they make a remake of that TV show Fame? Didn't they do that? That show was real gay. It was gay the first time and it was gay the second time. Only reason it came to my mind because it said, because in the thing it say we want to live forever. And then they would say fame. And look at that. When you look at fame, it's Shema, a report or a hearing. So we heard the report. What did we read last night? Who have believed the report? Who believed our report? And to whom is the arm of Yahuwah revealed? Y'all can run something down with that. Sean, Meme, and Ayin. We still got to come back for what we have for Sing. Muffin Boy. Leave Lizzie alone. Muffin Boy.
She said she won't have nothing else. Go sit down.
Sean, Meme, and Ayin. What you come up with for that? You could look at it and say that you know or you experience the consuming of the blood, or know or experience the consuming of the ruach, or you know the consuming of chaos. Because what did Yahushua consume with his fame, which you heard? Because again, what did he say he put in his mouth? A new song. Now we still got to finish the song in Moses, because Moses is giving an inkling to what Yahushua was coming to do on Passover. Because that's what they sing about in Exodus 15 is Passover. And if you go read the book of Revelation, it says how they sung the song of Moses after they were redeemed. Because the song of Moses is a song of redemption. That's why it's one of the first, that's why it's the first song in there. And that goes back to what you mentioned the fourth time, because what tribe did Moses belong to? So it would make sense that a Levite would be one of the first singers. And for you to know, the person who appointed singers was David. He made that an ordinance for there to be singers and then for them to sing in the temple. Because before David, that didn't happen. That didn't go on.
But that made sense.
Indeed. And you were correct, because David was the one who instituted that. He made that an ordinance in Israel for there to be singers in the temple. And I'll grab that verse in a moment. It says, Elohim understand the way thereof, and he know the place thereof, for he looked to the ends of the earth and see under the whole heaven. Now let's look at that. He looked to the ends of the earth. It should be Ra'ah for that. No, it's Nabat. To look or to regard or to pay attention to. Noon, Ba, and Tet. So look at that there, what it is. What is Tet? Is surround. But I think it's an indwelling with that. And it is to store or to give in or to contain. So you said how the Son contains life. That's what he's looking unto. You know, I'll tell you that in Isaiah, that no one looks after Yahuwah's understanding. Because most people don't seek after it. And his understanding is his Son. He tell you that. The Apostle John told you that. Let's finish. Let's get that Deuteronomy 22 and 8 now. Deuteronomy 22 and 8. Deuteronomy 22 and 8. When you build a new house, then you shall make a battlement for your roof, that you bring not blood upon your house, if any man fall from thence. So let's look at this word for battlement. Now, of course, when you got new, you got Kadash. But we want to look at battlement. Let's see what that is. It says it's a wall or edge of a balcony or roof along the sides of a bridge. Excuse me. So you got Meme, you got Ayin, you got Kuf, and you got Hay. Now notice when he say when you build a new house, you need to make a battlement. Now we're going to look at this in this fashion. When he tell you to make a battlement. I think I mentioned this to somebody the other day. This is how Yahuwah work, right? If Yahuwah doesn't make a provision or builds a battlement on his house, then guess what ends up happening? No, he won't be broken into. Then blood would be on him. Remember, he say when you build a new house. So we're looking. You got to look at this verses. This is a means for Yahuwah to cover himself. He's telling you to do this so you can cover yourself. So you don't think Yahuwah gonna do something when he say you build a new house and this is Kadash and you sitting at looking at I'm coming up with something new. What did he sit back and he made mention of in the Epistle of Hebrews about that there was a necessity to make a change in the law? Let's take a look at that in Hebrews chapter 7. Hebrews 7 and 5. Because let's ask ourselves a question. Did Yahuwah build a new house? Is the house that he built with Yahushua the same as the old one? So this is a new house. So he has to put a battlement on his house so an individual, if they fall off that house, that they won't have no blood fall on him. See, if I build the house of quarterman and put a battlement on it and you fall off of it, then that blood is on your own hands. But if I don't put one on there and you climb up there and you fall off of it, then the blood is on me. So Yahuwah has to do something in order to cover himself. So when you fall off this roof, you fell off on your own. Hebrews chapter 7, verse 5. Say truly that they that are the sons of Levi who receive the office of the priesthood have a commandment to take tithes of the people, according to Torah, that is of their brethren, though they come out of the loins of Abraham. Now, of course, it's going back before that, talking about how Abraham paid tithes to Melchizedek, and there was no Levite priest on the scene. And we mentioned that verse with tithes last night, but that's just to let you know that there were tithes before there was ever a temple and before there was ever a Levite. Because not only did Abraham pay tithes, but Jacob did too. He did that in the 28th chapter of Genesis when he said that if you be my Elohim, then I'll give you a tenth of everything that I have. And it's always funny to me how Brews argue with that, and this is how Yahuwah get people, because if they were tithing under Melchizedek, and then that get passed down to Levi, and then Yahusha is a priest after the order of Melchizedek, then you can't talk trash about people and say you shouldn't do that, because now you breaking the very Torah that you claim to uphold. Because tithes didn't come with Levi. And that's in the Torah. Do say what they want to say, but it is what it is. And it's not the issue, just let it be known of whether people collect them or not. It's the issue of don't say that you shouldn't do this or do that. And that's before Torah. And I don't disagree with that at all. You know what I'm saying? And that regard, but see, that's a different type of offering. Because he said he believed everybody should lay a tenth aside to help the needy. There were offerings for the poor. Like most of us don't know that, and we done went through that in the past. There were certain offerings for certain things. You know what I'm saying? And offerings for the poor was different from the tithe. You know what I'm saying? Then you had free will offerings. You had burnt offerings. You know what I'm saying? You had sin offerings. You had trespass offerings. You had things for Jubilee. You had whether people want to believe it or not, there was a building fund and all. You know what I'm saying? But that just come from us not really going through the Torah and seeing what's in it, and then actually taking that stuff and implementing it accordingly. You know what I'm saying? That's why you see that example during Hamashiach's time about that woman who threw her last mite in the collection. And it said that woman gave more than everybody out there because she gave all that she had. You know what I'm saying? But nevertheless, but yeah, always to tell you that. That's why another verse to tell you that a man, she said, let him that steal no more, and let him work with his hands so that he can be able to give to him that needs. Because you can see examples like with Paul of them going around collecting for the poor saints to take back to Jerusalem and to disperse from them. Same thing where you seen Peter telling them people, we ain't got time to wait tables. You know what I'm saying? Because they say they were not dispensing to the widows and the fatherless as they were supposed to. But that's definitely a good point. And I say it's a lot of different offerings that serve a lot of different purposes, and they were to minister to one or two things: either minister to the priest for their service, or to minister unto the poor, or for that just to be in the storehouse. You know what I'm saying? For whatever need was necessary at that time. Nevertheless. We in verse 6. He say, but he whose descent is not counted from them received tithes of Abraham and blessed him that had the promises. And without all contradiction, the less is blessed of the better. Now look at what it says. It says the less is blessed of the better. What does that mean? We'll read that again. It say, but he whose descent is not counted from them received tithes of Abraham. What is he telling you? Levi is not from that descent of Melchizedek. Melchizedek is not of Levi, but yet he received tithes of Abraham. And he blessed the man who had the promises. That's Genesis 14, for those who may not know, about verse 18, where it begins. And it said, and without all contradiction, the less is blessed of the better. Now, what can this mean? That the less is blessed of the better. And he say, with no contradiction. Because who would consider to be greater between Abraham and Melchizedek?
He was the one that had no father, no mother, but he blessed Abraham.
Who would be less than him? That goes back to what I was talking about last night on just because you're greater than does not mean that you act like a douchebag. You know what I'm saying? Because Melchizedek was greater than Abraham. How is he greater than Abraham? He's the high priest of the Most High Elohim. But yet he blessed him who was less than him. He said there's no contradiction in that. So turn around and you look at that and you bring that to Yahusha. What's the difference? There is no difference. That's why he said there's no contradiction. A lot of times when you hear people say the scriptures contradict itself, that's somebody who just lacks understanding. You don't know what you're talking about. And that's your cop-out. Nevertheless. And here men that die receive tithes. But there he received them of whom it is witness that he lived. I think that's something he says it's a witness that men who die get them. And here's a witness of a man who don't die and he do. And as I may say so, and as I may so say, Levi also received tithes, paid tithes in Abraham. For when he was yet in the loins of his father, when Melchizedek met him. So he letting you know that Levi paid him too. Just because he come from Abraham. If therefore perfection were by the Levitical priesthood, for under it the people received the law, what further need was there that another priest should arise after the order of Melchizedek and not be called after the order of Aaron? Now, when they look at perfection, a lot of people look at that and try to twist it. See, perfection don't come from the law. No, perfection don't come from the Levitical priesthood because he just told you that in the verse before because they died. How can you be made complete, whole, and full of integrity from someone who has to bear the penalty of sin, which is death? So it would be impossible for them to build a house since they can't live continually to build it. He said, for the priesthood being changed, there is made a necessity, a change also of Torah. For he whom these things are spoken pertain to another tribe, of which no man gave attendance of at the altar. What did we just read the other day in Ezekiel 40? What are those three sacrifices that are made on that table in Ezekiel chapter 40? No, that was not in Ezekiel 40. Three distinct. We went through each one of them last week. One dealt with grace. No. I'm talking about specifically in Ezekiel 40. Anna went back over them last night. Mm-hmm. The burnt offering. Got two more. You got your burnt offering. You got two more offerings. Not in Ezekiel 40. Said on that table, there were three offerings that were set on that table. And burnt offering was one of them. No. It wouldn't say a flesh offering. It just would say burnt offering. Got two more offerings. Kira just mentioned the second one, sin offering. And there's one more offering. The trespass offering. You know what I'm saying? And remember, we talked about that as well again last night, that we offer up spiritual sacrifices on an altar acceptable to Elohim by Yahushua HaMashiach, because the high priest is the only person who can attend to that altar. So let's look at that word again for battlement. The reason why I'm looking at that is we're looking at something where there was a necessity to change the law. Something had to be amended, and look at how Yahuwah did it, how he turned around and he covered himself, because he had already had an order of Melchizedek before Levi ever existed. So it's nothing for him to come back later and swear to his son that you'll be a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek, because the priesthood of Melchizedek predates the priesthood of Aaron. Before there was ever a priesthood of Aaron, there was a priesthood of Melchizedek, and the priesthood of Aaron was always going to be temporary. And why was it always going to be temporary? Because these men died. So again, we're looking at something when you build a new house. So when he built the new house by Yahushua, then it would necessitate a new priesthood. Because what did he say again in Jeremiah 31? Go ahead. He doesn't die. So what does it tell you in Jeremiah 31 over and over again? That I will make a covenant not like the one I made with your fathers. Well, the covenant he made with your fathers, it had a priesthood that died, did it not? So when he making a new, that's why I tell you, if a man tell you, oh, I'm a high priest, I'm of the tribe of Levi, I'm a priest, nigga, you's a fool. I know you who ain't got nothing to do with you, because you holding to a covenant that can't bring forth life. So why would I listen to you? It sounds harsh. You know what I'm saying? But the truth is harsh. You know what I'm talking about? And that's scripturally accurate. If a dude came to you right now and told you he was a high priest after the order of Aaron, what would that mean to you? Would that mean anything to you? Would that mean anything to y'all? That don't mean anything to anyone. I got a high priest. He sits at the right hand of his father to make intercession on our behalf. So you telling me you are the seed of Aaron means absolutely nothing to me. And then remember, what did we read in Ezra about that? If he say he a Levite, what he got to do? He got to show paperwork he a Levite. So if you can't show me paperwork, then the law say you pollute the priesthood, put you out. I ain't even supposed to listen to you anyway. Because you saying you a Levite based off a 12 tribe chart is not accurate enough according to Torah and the text for me to accept that. You know what I'm saying? This is why we point out certain things and go through it. You're supposed to know this. That's why he say, I've told you before, no man will be able to deceive you. No man will be able to deceive you because you know the word. How can you know the word and be deceived? That means you would have to be as simple as Eve. When I say simple, meaning pride of life, lust of eyes, lust of the flesh. That's dealing with simplicity. You know what I'm saying? Because he's already tell you the simple love simplicity. You know what I'm saying? So you're going to love carnal things. You're going to love the things that are a man more than the things that are Elohim, because that's what you're going to go after. Because you want to stay. See, I don't want to stay in the old house. That temple been destroyed. So why I want to stay in the old house for? And we got a new one. Let's look at that word for battlement. Remember, y'all, that's a parapet, a low wall at the edge of a balcony. You got Meme, Ayin, Kuf, and Hey. Now I know I got what I would come up with, but what would y'all come up with that? What would you say for Meme there, sir? What would you say?
I say.
What you say?
I say monster truck.
Say what?
I say monster truck.
I don't understand what you speak of, sir.
I say Paw Patrol.
Paw Patrol?
Yes. It's not what the mom went.
Yeah, I don't care for Paw Patrol.
It's a movie.
I'm aware of what it is. My statement still stands.
It's a mustache.
He has a mustache.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully you'll get old enough to grow yours.
And
And paste? Well, I don't care about talking dogs. They don't do anything for me. I don't care for real dogs, so. You find that humorous, don't you?
No.
You don't.
I'm not at all.
Oh, not at all?
I'm not the cat.
Oh, you're not a cat? I would hope not. You're a boy.
I am a boy.
Yes, you are a boy.
I'm not the girl.
Yes, and your father appreciates that.
My mommy has its own milk.
She has her own milk?
Yeah, it's all gone.
It's all gone?
It's a little bit.
It's a little bit.
And yeah. It's like it's going to
I find it hard to believe that you know your mother's memory schedule. It's okay.
It's coming back. The children is coming back.
Oh, it's going to come back?
Yeah, it's going to come back. It's see me in the paste.
In the paste. What would y'all say for me? Ruach it is. Ayin? Experience? Kuf? Not sorry. And hey. So the last Adam has experienced the Ruach. And this is the battlement that you've made on this new house. Because see, we were talking about this before. I was talking to somebody about this the other day too. We'll get John 7:37 right now, screw. Mordecai, I have no desire for your pretzel sticks. Go sit with your parents. Well, there's nowhere for you to sit over here. So it's okay. 7:37, John, go. Listen to your father, sir. There's nowhere for you to sit. Pick up your pretzels. Well, nigga, you ain't heard me.
I heard you.
John 7:37. In the last day, that great day of the feast, Yahushua stood and cried, saying, if any man thirst, let him come unto me and drink. He that believe on me, as the scripture hath said, out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water. But this spake he of the Ruach, which they that believe on him should receive. For the Ruach HaKadosh was not yet given, because Yahushua was not yet esteemed. So if we're looking at that battlement that the last Adam experienced the Ruach. Well, how did he experience it? Number one, they gave you an inkling to that when he first started preaching. What happened? He got immersed. A Ruach fell on him. He went to preaching. Now, bonus question. Who can remember where that's at in the law that had to happen? Not the dove, but the Ruach came on him. Why did he have to be immersed before he could preach? No, it's in the law. It's in Exodus 40 that for a priest could perform in the priest's office, he had to be washed first. Had to be washed first. And that's why you had John the Baptist, who was a Levite, the one performing it. Do you know what I'm saying? Because we already just read it in Hebrews 7 that there was going to be a necessity that the law be changed. We just see an immersion. You know what I'm saying? But you see this immersion because this is why you can't be that spiritual priesthood like it mentioned, that Peter mentioned in 1 Peter chapter 2, unless you get immersed first. Because if you're not, then you're not keeping the law. You're not keeping the law, you say you uphold. You know what I'm saying? This is why he say he that believe and is baptized shall be saved. Because if you believe the law, then you say, I'm going to be a priest, I'm going to be Levi, then you're going to be joined to Yahuwah, joined to Yahushua, then guess what you're going to do? Go ahead and get in that water so you can be joined with him. Why wouldn't you? You can't function in the priest office that makes spiritual sacrifices acceptable to Elohim by Yahushua if you don't. Say that again? Yeah, that's in another chapter. But that's why he washed their feet, for them to operate in the priest office. What was I going to go at? Oh, Romans chapter 8. That was an inkling into baptism. That was a foreshadowing of it. I think he did all that after the fact, or he had somebody else do it, because he didn't do no baptizing himself.
Right. That's what I was just saying.
I mean, it doesn't state that they did, but they did though, because their baptism was unto repentance. Once they got baptized by John, they got baptized by the Ruach. They didn't have to go down again in his name.
You know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm talking about.
How they got baptized?
9 times out of 10, they got baptized under the baptism of John. They didn't get baptized in the Mashal's name. They didn't have to. They got baptized by the Ruach.
Mama.
You know what I'm saying? I thought when he started preaching, he didn't have to talk.
He did. But that don't mean that they weren't listening. Because like Peter and his brother, they were following John.
John was already preaching long before he came.
And he was baptizing people.
I don't have enough gas.
You don't have what?
I said I don't have enough gas.
You don't have a jacket?
No.
What do you want me to do about that?
Go out.
Well, you do have a jacket. Clearly you chose not to bring it with you.
Well, it's gone.
Well, I don't have time to have this conversation. Romans chapter 8. I mean, he can stay over there. That ain't about me. Romans 8 and 8. So then they that are in the flesh cannot please Elohim. This is why if you're going to build a new house, you got to make another battlement. You know what I'm saying? Because what we're looking at is if we're in the flesh, we can't please Elohim, so we got to make a new house. Now, again, he's making a new battlement because if you experience the Ruach, then this is Yahuwah covering himself. Because if I make something and it's of a different thing and you fall off this house, then who can you blame? Why do you think he says what in Matthew, right? He say when the gospel is preached in the four corners of the earth, then the end gonna come. Yahuwah covers himself on every angle and spot, so no blood will ever be on his hands. Ever be on his hands. Then even at the same token, like we done told you before in Romans 2, I can tell you, where's the example of that? He say those that have Torah will perish with Torah, and those who without Torah will perish without it. What does the law back that up? The Canaanites and the Hivites, they ain't had no Torah. They perished without it, though. He perished without it, though. Just because you ain't heard no word don't mean you can't perish without it. But Yahuwah merciful, so he'll let you, he'll tug your ear. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not going to come back round. I mean, shoot, they heard of the fame. You know what I'm saying? But they ain't have no law, though. See, they heard the fame. They heard the report. And see, again, this is how Yahuwah covers. Because see, you ain't got to have no law, but you're going to hear the report. And how did he, boom. And how did he cover himself even more? Because he said the heavens declare the gospel. So when he made a new battlement or so you don't fall off the roof, just know if you stumble and fall, you stumbled on your own. Because you were appointed to, because you were disobedient and unbelieving. You ain't gonna turn around and say, it's Yahuwah's fault, and then blood on his hands, because if blood on Yahuwah's hands, then guess what we just said he did? Sin. And ain't no sin with Elohim. So he got to cover himself. Woo, woo, woo. Because he said, I made a new house. Yahusha is that new house. You can come around here and try to come with that crap you came on the first go round. He got to do that because you know people. People like to play the victim. And what do victims like to do? Blame. It's always somebody else's fault. That's all Bruce do in America right now is play the victim and blame. Like I seen this here, right? They've been talking about a football player who's an analyst talking about Lamar Jackson and niggas mad. You know how we know it was phony? Because the man said it on Monday and ain't nobody catch no rake about it till Thursday. He said, oh, they probably couldn't see the ball because the ball's dark, his uniform's dark, and he's dark skinned, so it's hard to see the ball. But see, that's how niggas act though, because you always want to get up in arms and roar about what white people saying. Why you care so much? If you say you the people of Elohim, like I just seen an article, it said the attorney general says that if certain communities don't want to get along with the police, then they won't be afforded police protection. And niggas like, what communities is he talking about? These people are wicked. Why you care? Well, if they don't want to come around there, guess what that tell you to do? To make your own police, nigga, police your own neighborhood. But you don't want to do that because you want Mr. Charlie to do it. So because Mr. Charlie won't come around here and do it, you mad. No, they don't. But you know why they wouldn't want black men to do it? Because black men don't respect other black men's authority. So if this black man told you stop raping this woman, nigga, who you would tell me what to do? That's why niggas don't want nobody to do it, because black male masculinity is despised and rejected. Not only by black women, but by black people as a whole. You know, have you ever seen how disrespected most black men get treated when they're in a position of authority from other black people? You know what I'm saying? Okay.
I feel you.
As a whole? Oh, absolutely.
Nah, I ain't gonna,
Absolutely. Absolutely. What I just seen and dude talking about the police don't come.
but it's how niggas do though. A lot of niggas when they get a little piece of authority, they been so pressed on them niggas they don't know how to act.
Some do, but some people, but because if you look at a group that's been marginalized and you've been told not to respect them, you don't have a natural inclination to yield to their authority to begin with. You know what I'm saying? Most dudes ain't never had a daddy in their house, and all they heard was they bald-headed whole mama talking about how niggas ain't this and niggas ain't that, and every no good nigga she brought in the house. You know what I'm saying? So guess what you come up doing? You look at another man, you have disdain for this black man because what your mama told you, and it's subconscious. It ain't even got to be nothing conscious. The way you smile, I hate black people. You hate black men because that's what you've been hearing your whole life. You're raised with women, and all you hear them is cocking and squawking by black men ain't this, that, there, and the third. What you think that's gonna do for his confidence? Do y'all recall that article? I'm going to go over that article with y'all. That son you talking about black boys are destroyed long before you send them out there in the street. Because it's how you talk to them. It's how you treat them. She sit here talking about how she's 60, 70 years old and her grown son don't even fool with her. How many of y'all actually read that article? Because you should pay attention to it, especially if you're a woman and you got sons, because how you talk to your son is how he will develop his viewpoint of himself. You know what I'm saying? And it's a lot of black women talk to their sons like that. You emasculate. We talk about emasculating this nigga, and then you expect him to be a man. He ain't no man no more. You took his nuts from him. You know what I'm saying? Now you wonder when he get out there in the earth, out there in the world, he messed up. I done told you that before. Like, it ain't always good to yell at a little boy from a woman perspective, because that's why dudes grow up and think, oh, you always argue with your woman, because his mama been yelling at him his whole life, and he seen his mama yelling at his daddy or whatever man she was fooling with. So guess what he gonna think is the acceptable interaction with a woman yelling at him, going back and forth with him. He think that's acceptable. He think that's how it's supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? It's very rarely that a young black boy or see a black woman giving deference and reverential treatment to another man. Average young black boy ain't never seen that in his life. But see, that's on that's when you go to looking at stuff on a three-dimensional level and understanding how your words, your actions, and your thought patterns can affect things 20, 30, 40 years from now. See, we don't think that far down the road. You know what I'm saying? We also live in a society where you hear grown black women sit back, I don't need no man. But y'all know where that come from, right? Why you always see, when you see sports show, they don't never show Kyrie Irving with his daddy, right? Y'all notice that? Kyrie Irving raised by daddy. You see that sad part that you ain't even know that? Because his mama died when he was a kid. His daddy raised him. You don't never hear nobody talking about Kyrie Irving daddy and see him on TV. I bet you see Kevin Durant with his mammy, though. I bet you know who his mama is. You done seen her before. She the real MVP. And niggas going that nigga simping. You shouldn't have went for that crap. You know why you shouldn't have went for that crap? You know what I'm saying? But I'm talking about in regards of there are athletes whose daddies were there. And they don't show them. You know what I'm saying? Like Zion Williamson, he had a daddy. There was a man there. They only show his mama. Why did they do that? Because you already know that they're promoting ISIS and Horus. This is ISIS and Horus' favorite time of year. Do you know why? Because it's Christmas time. And what do they say happened during Christmas time? No, not when he resurrected. That's when he was born. They don't never talk about Joseph. They just act like Joseph just never existed. You know what I'm saying? They don't never talk about Joseph. You know why they don't never talk about Joseph? Because it's Isis and Horus, the mother goddess. See, me with my baby. I don't need no man. Joseph who? Joseph for who? Need a man for what? And that's the ideology that they're promoting. Because what is that ideology? Subservience to the female principle. You know what I'm saying? Be in subjection and serve a woman for the entirety of your life. You know what I'm talking about? And people see that and they don't understand that. That's why I told you about that last night. Yeah, go ahead and get on your man. And I guarantee you, if you was to ask the average woman, get off to the side and say, when your husband got on the knee and proposed to you, how you really felt about that nigga? She already know I got it. This nigga on his knees, I got it. You hear love songs where they talk about, baby, I get on my knees and beg for you. Every woman on the earth knows once this nigga get on his knee, oh, it's over with. I don't want this nigga back. This nigga on his knees. You already know subconsciously. This nigga sees you as his God. How would you feel if a nigga got on his knees? Any of y'all, how would you feel if a nigga just got on his knees begging you, baby, please come back. Please. How would you feel? That just sound good on songs and love songs y'all like to listen to. I'm on my knees begging all that junk. That junk look good on a movie till a nigga do it in real life. You know why you feel weird? If the respect was here, that junk go to drop. Because you don't expect a man to behave that way. Like you want a nigga to care, but you don't want him to be like you. You know what I'm saying? You hear women say he's acting nonchalant like he don't care. Well, what you want him to act like a hoe? What you want him to act like? You know, because men are different. You know what I'm saying? If that's what it is, that's what it's gonna be. What can I do to change it? I can't do nothing to change it. Nigga like this here, watching too much Martin. Gina running after him. If Martin was running after you like he would run after Gina, you'd have been messing with another nigga and he wouldn't even know it. That joint's not cool. It's not what it's supposed to be, but that's what they train you to do because it's just mother goddess worship. Look at that. Every nativity scene, who they focus on. They call Mary the queen of heaven, for lack of a better term. They call her that. The mother of God. All this type of stuff. They trying to let you know what type of time they on. It's Babylonian pagan sun worship. They're trying to let you know what time they on. It's the Kemetic mystery school system. They're trying to let you know. Because it's backwards, because it's a matriarchy. So they want you to, the woman dominates and rules. And everyone knows that if a woman dominates and rules, the only thing that's going to come out of that is chaos and confusion. You know what I'm saying? Why? You're operating outside of your role. Imagine if Yahuwah just decided to say, you know what, Yahusha, I don't want you to lead the world no more. Let Israel do it. Now imagine the chaos that is going to ensue if he gave all the power of heaven over to this people. And you see my point. It's better for a man who is a man to lead that there, because if you let Israel run it, they're going to be all over the place. Israel act like a woman. Because you know why I say that? Because what dudes online do all day, every day? Argue and complain. Nevertheless, Romans 8:9. But you are not in the flesh. He said, let me get off her. Whatever. He said, but you are not in the flesh, but in the Ruach. If so be that the Ruach of Elohim dwell in you. But clearly she was happy to see him. She wanted to give him a salutation, a greeting. But guess what, Nael? Just like we told Muffin, no matter what nobody said, you're supposed to stay in that chair. Stayed in that chair. He said, the Ruach Elohim dwell in you. Now, if any man have not the Ruach of Mashiach, he is none of his. And if Mashiach be in you, the body is dead because of sin. The Ruach is life because of righteousness. But if the Ruach of him that raised up Yahushua from the dead dwell in you, he that raised up of Mashiach from the dead shall quicken your mortal bodies by his Ruach that dwell in you. And that is a new thing. Let me get that Matthew 11 that we mentioned before. Let's just grab that. And then we'll finish Exodus 15. Be still. Matthew 11 and 11. Matter of fact, just make it 7. Matthew 11 and 7. Matter of fact, make it 6. Blessed is he whosoever shall not be offended in me. And as they departed, Yahushua began to say unto the multitudes concerning John, what went you out into the wilderness to see? A reed shaken with the wind? But what you went out for to see? A man clothed in soft raiment? Behold, they that wear soft clothing are in kings' houses. But what went you out for to see? A prophet? Yea, I say unto you, more than a prophet. For this is he whom it is written, behold, I send my messenger before your face, which shall prepare your way before me. Who know what he quoting? He ain't quoting Isaiah neither. He quoted in Malachi because he told you that man to come with a fuller soap and a refiner's fire. Truly I say unto you, among them that are born of women, there have not risen a greater than John the Baptist. Notwithstanding, he that is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. You see how it says there's no contradiction, how the less is equal to the better, how I read in that? Because he just told you that John the Baptist is the greatest of him that's born among women. Let me read that again in Hebrew because I know I said it wrong. Not right now.
I think
that Hebrews 7 without contradiction, the less is blessed of the better. You see that same thing with John the Baptist. He's sitting here telling you the less were blessed of the better. Because John the Baptist was better than all of them. He's saying from the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven suffer violence, and the violent take it by force. For all the prophets and Torah prophesied until John. But in Luke, that's when he's saying, now the kingdom of heaven is preached, and all men are pressed into it. Muffin boy, come on, bring him here. Because he'll calm his nerves. Johnny, bring him to him. Come on here, boy. You act like she don't leave a room from time to time. Relax yourself, Muffin boy. Muffin boy. You all right? Let's go back to Exodus 15. And then we'll get that Psalms 40 in just a moment. Try to get a soliloquy in the Zadok. We stopped at verse 2, right? Well, we can do song right now because it's there. That was Sean, Yard, and Raj. What would y'all come up with that? Sure. Sean, Yard, and Raj. Well, my apologies. That's a different word for song here. This is Zimrath, which is a song of praise, a song of music or melody. You have Zayin, Meme, Rosh, and Tau. It's a different word there. My apologies. Zayin, Meme, Rosh, and Tau. Muffin boy. You want to go back over there with mom?
I want to go back. My mom is gone.
No, it's grandma.
Her grandma?
Yeah.
Well, her grandma is gone.
His grandma's right there.
Her grandma.
She's right there.
Grandma is right there, and that is done.
So Zayn, what would you use for that? Fruitful. Mean, what would you say for that? Well, clearly we would have to say Ruach. And Rosh. Gonna have to roll with that chief. And Tau is self-explanatory. So we sit back and we see how the fruits of the Ruach of Yahusha equals that covenant. Or the covenant is the fruits of the Ruach of Yahusha. However you want to look at it. Because he told you that the fruits of the Ruach, there is no law against them. So how can the Ruach be, the fruits of the Ruach be manifested? We already know the Ruach HaKadosh is a sign of the covenant. So when you sing that song of praise, then who is it is? You're going to be singing of the wonderful works of Yahuwah, and that wonderful work of Yahuwah is the burial and resurrection of his son. This is what allows you to bring forth that fruit of the Ruach of that covenant. That's the only way that can happen. See, a lot of people want to mention a lot of, because I know a lot of bruisers say we got to be showing the fruits of the spirit. In order to show the fruits of that spirit, that seed has to be planted, and that seed has to die. You have to be buried with it. Let's continue though. We was looking about preparing a habitation. Let's drop down to verse 6. We got to move along a little bit. It says, your right hand, O Yahuwah, has become esteemed in power. Your right hand, O Yahuwah, have dashed in pieces the enemy. And in the greatness of your excellency, you have overthrown them that rose against you. You sent forth your wrath, which consumed them as stubble. And with the blast of your nostrils, the waters were gathered together, and the flood stood upright as a heap, and the depths of the earth were congealed in the heart of the sea. The enemy said, I will pursue, I will overtake, I will divide the spoil. My lust shall be satisfied upon them. I will draw my sword, and my hand shall destroy them. Let's drop down a little bit. We'll keep going. You did blow with the wind. Your sea covered them. They sank as lead in mighty waters. Who is like unto you, O Yahuwah, among the gods? Who is like you, esteemed in Kadash, fearful in praises, doing wonders? Now let's finish this right here in verse 16. Fear and dread shall fall upon them by the greatness of your arm. They shall be as still as stone till your people pass over, Yahuwah, till the people pass over which you have purchased. You shall bring them in and plant them in the mountain of your inheritance, in the place, O Yahuwah, which you have made for you to dwell, in the sanctuary, O Yahuwah, which your hands have established. Notice that it said in the sanctuary which he established, which takes us back to, this is the sanctuary, the temple made without hands. So let's take another look. I think we're good in Ezekiel 40, Psalms 40, but we need to finish that word in Psalms 40. Sean, Yard, and Rosh. So let's take a roll back over there and finish that on out. Psalms 40. Went a little different direction than I planned to, but praise be to Yahuwah nonetheless. So I'll read verse 2 again. Oh, you see your mother. That's why you're cheesing? You seem to be very happy. He gets excited, man. What can you say? He gets excited. He said, he brought me up also out of a miry clay, out of a horrible pit, and out of miry clay, and set my feet upon a rock and established my goings. He put a new song in my mouth, even praise unto our Elohim. Many shall see it, fear, and shall trust in Yahuwah. Now, what happened when Yahushua? That's the same thing, because that's what's getting brought in Exodus 15. The same thing happened again with the Lord. All this is dealing with a new thing, to build a new house, and we're looking at singers. So the individuals who are singers, come over here to what it is, Revelation 11. (11 and 15). He said, and the seventh angel sounded, and there were great voices in heaven saying, the kingdom of this world have become the kingdoms of Yahuwah and of his anointed one, and he shall reign forever and ever. And the 24 elders which sat before Elohim on their seats fell upon their faces and worshiped Elohim, saying, we give thanks, O Yahuwah Elohim Almighty, which are and was and are to come, because you have taken to you great power and have reigned. Who remembers when we went over that? That you were him that is, what did it say again? Which were, which was, and which is to come. Because then ain't that's what Yahushua said about himself? Revelation chapter 1. Ain't that what it said? Revelation 1 and 18. I am him that lived and was dead, and behold, I'm alive forevermore. That's not the one. Who remembers what that means? He's his which are, which was, and which is to come. Anyone recall those? Do you remember, Kira? What it mean then, Kira? You say you remember what it mean, Kira? Renee, cut it out. Who remember what it mean? Come on, Kira. What it mean? You remember what that mean? When he say he is which were, which was, and which is to come. Remember, he was going we went over this before. It's been a couple months. It was probably in the last 6 months.
Which was like Proverbs 8.
Hold on. This is what we juxtapose this to, so maybe that'll jar your memory. It was talking about the beast, where it tell you that where's the verse at? It's in Revelation 17. Where it tells you that the beast that was and is not, and how that was in juxtaposition to the two. Because Yahushua says he was him that were, which was, and is to come. With the beast, it said that the beast was one him that was, but is not. So you see that. What do you see missing with the beast? No, you see that Yahushua said, I am that were, which was, and it is to come. The beast, it says, and was, and is not. So I remember we dealt with this because the word usage is confusing. I looked at me the same way then, and I understand. That's why we went through that. Why are we going through this again? Because if you know that he did a new thing with Yahushua, what do we know the beast is coming to do? To emulate. To emulate. So if Yahushua says that he was, were, and was, and is to come. But it says, remember, who gave the beast his power? Satan. You know what I'm talking about? And it says that the beast was and is not. Well, let's look at the first two components, which Kira said correctly. And which Yahushua was before the world was. Okay, you know Satan was, because he was up there with him. You know what I'm talking about? Now, well, which word? What is the was? You know what I'm saying? Well, Yahushua, what it was is, he was manifested in earth. I kind of read that verse already. I'm him who lived and died and lived forever. But which is the is to come. And it says, with the beast is not. You know what I'm saying? So, you see that? Crime be made flesh, or Torah made flesh. On that last one, which is to come, what is he coming to do? Remember, he's built a new house, made a new battlement. So he's coming to take over and reign. says the beast is not, because he is not Elohim. What is he going to sit in the temple and declare that he is? Elohim. And he's going to work wonders like he's Elohim. But he's building a house that doesn't have a balcony on the roof. So everyone who falls off that roof, that blood going to be on the beast. You know what I'm saying? That's why Yahuwah made a battlement on his roof. Ain't nobody falling off that. That blood going to be on you. And this is the thing where you're supposed to know the difference. You know what I'm saying? Because if you know that Yahusha is to come, how could the beast fool you when the book already done told you he is not? So when you see a man and he bringing fire from heaven, you're supposed to already know. Yahusha told you the same way lightning comes from the east to the west. That's how you're going to see me coming. You ain't even supposed to be moved by that. You know what? So what? He get hit with a deadly wound and he resurrect from the dead. You ain't supposed to be moved by that. You said your Redeemer lives. That's what you say. You say your Redeemer live. You say your Redeemer sit at the right hand of Elohim. Why are you moved? Because a nigga died and live again. I'm not moved by that. So I know that you was, but you not. You are a liar. So what he said? He say he God. Well, shoot. People say a lot of things. Girl over there say she fine. You know what I'm saying? Jury's still out. Niggas get on Morin every day and say that's the daddy. Jury says stew. It's up for debate. Nobody knows. We got to wait for the results to come back. Well, you don't have to wait for the results to come back because you got the scriptures. The results are already there. They're already there. So again, that's why I mentioned that earlier before, right? How can you say you know the word and you deceived? That means you don't know it. If anybody know the word, or you proud and you want to do what you want to do. Because if he put a new song in your mouth, pause. Matter of fact, let's look at this here, right? What it is, man. Revelation 14. 14 and 10, I suppose. Malik. I see you, cuz. You crawling? Malia, just because he crawling don't mean you need to crawl with him. You need to sit down and pay attention. He's a baby. He don't know no better. You do. You're not a baby. No, you're not a baby. What are y'all doing?
I'm showing her what the trash.
Revelation 14 and 10. We'll make it 9. And the third Malachim followed him, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast in his image and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Elohim, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. He shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the Kadash Malachim and in the presence of the Lamb. The smoke of their torment ascend up forever and ever, and they have no rest day or night, who worship the beast in his image and will receive the mark of his name. Here's the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of Elohim and the faith of Yahusha. So if you a saint, a set apart one, a kased, a kadeshim, then you're not only going to have the commandments, you're going to have the testimony, which is the new song that he put in your mouth for the purpose of building a new house. And that new house has a battlement that blood will not be upon anyone who walks upon that roof. Because if you fall off, then that blood is on you. And this is why I say he put singers in the temple. So these singers are the ones who are declaring this new song. Now the word is Shair, Shad, Yad, and Rosh. What you got for that? I read some of the things for Yad because right hand's usually the go-to, but it doesn't always have to be that way, especially considering that we're talking about praise. Mm-hmm. Not right now, sir. Not right now. So we definitely sit back and look at worship in this instance, will we not? So guess what you take back, and you take that and you take that yard and you put worship, and you got Sean and Raj, and you get paired to the worship of the highest. So when you sing it, and what does the text tell you? What did Yahusha say? If you serve me, then you do what? You serving the person who's sonning. If you honor him, then you're honoring the person who's sonning. So when you sing in that new song, then you're paired to the worship of the highest. Because if you're paired to the worship of the highest, what did the Son do? Philippians chapter 2. Show you how the Son worships. That's what it is in Ezekiel 40. But
what was your question when you asked that again? You was like, who was the first singer?
the first, who sung the first song?
What you said about singers?
The David appointed singers. And we're going to read that in a moment. David came up with that. Like we had already mentioned, that wasn't in Torah. There were no singers because there was no temple. And we know that there is no physical temple in the kingdom. So the singers are those who are there. Because I didn't get to Zadok today. We might get a little bit of it. But Zadok, who remembers what Zadok's name means? Means righteous. And it's come from the word for righteous, which is Zadok or just. And we'll probably grab some things up out of that in a moment. What was I headed to? Philippians chapter 2. Two and 5. Let this mind be in you, which was also in Yahushua HaMashiach, who being in the form of Elohim, thought it not robbery to be equal with Elohim, but made himself of no reputation, and took upon him the form of a servant, and was made in the likeness of men. And being found fashioned as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient unto death, even the death of the stake. Wherefore Elohim also have highly exalted him and given a name which is above every name, that in the name of Yahushua every knee should bow, of the things in heaven and the things in earth and the things under the earth. And that every tongue should confess that Yahushua HaMashiach is Lord, to the esteem of Elohim Abba. Now go again, this here also gives you an inkling to the Ruachs in prison, because he said everything under the earth. But let's take this in account. Let's go over here to 1 Chronicles chapter 15. Chapter 2. First Chronicles. We'll pick it up at verse 1 because Zadok gets mentioned here and it gives me my segue. 1 Chronicles 15 and 1. It gives me my segue. So praise Yahuwah. And we got time. What are you doing? I'm not laughing with you. Do I look like I'm in a jovial mood? Yet you're laughing. I don't understand why. Why are you laughing? Do I look like I'm in a jovial mood? No, I'm not. And why you that nigga look like the baby right now? Well, I seen a nigga show the baby from the side talking about that nigga head look like a PT Cruiser. I said, golly, it do. It do. Let me get them snacks, cuz. Nah, go put that in the trash. 1 Chronicles 15 and 1. David made him houses in the city of David and prepared a place for the ark of Elohim and pitched for it in. Then said David, none ought to carry the ark of Elohim but the Levites. For them have Yahuwah chosen to carry the ark of Elohim and to minister unto him forever. So pause again on a spiritual level, not on a natural level. He said the only people who can carry the covenant are the Levites, or those who are joined to Yahuwah, and them the only ones who serve him. And that takes us back to John chapter 4, that he seeks those who to worship him in Ruach and in truth. So if you ain't believe that gospel and had that new song, then you can't carry that ark. Because all that's in the ark is the covenant. That's all that's in there. How you going to carry the throne and the covenant ain't even in you? That's what you see with a lot of brews out here. You ain't got the Ruach in you. How you carrying the ark? How you serving Yahuwah? How you pulling that off? David gathered all Yasharal together to Jerusalem to bring up the ark of Yahuwah unto his place, which he had prepared for it. David assembled the sons of Aaron and the Levites. Of the sons of Kohath, Uriah the chief and his brethren, 120. Of the sons of Merari, Asaiah the chief and his brethren, 220. Of the sons of Gershom, Joel the chief and his brethren, 130. Who know who Gershom is? No, not Joseph. That's Moses' son. That's Moses' son. Of the sons of Elizaphan, Shemaiah the chief and his brethren 200. Of the sons of Hebron, Eliel the chief, and his brethren 80. Of the sons of Uzziel, Aminadab the chief, and the brethren 112. And David called for Zadok and Abiathar the priests and for the Levites, for Uriah, Asaiah, Joel, Shemaiah, Eli, and Aminadab. So always remember, if you didn't recall, when it say for the priest, and then it mentioned the Levites after that, when it mentioned that person who's a priest, that man is of the house of Aaron. And that's the high priest. Let's continue. And he said unto them, you are the chief of your fathers of the Levites. Sanctify yourselves, both you and your brethren, that you may bring up the ark of Elohim of Yasharal unto the place that I have prepared for it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's look at this here when he tell you to sanctify yourself. And it is Kadash. Y'all familiar with it. We mentioned that the other day to the children, to set yourself apart. So how are you going to be able to carry up that Ark of the Covenant and you haven't set yourself apart? And Yahushua say you sanctified by the faith that is in him. What did Yahushua pray for in John 17? Sanctify him with what? And because he said he had done what with the truth himself? Sanctified himself. He set himself apart by the faith. He was asking the Father to set them apart by the faith. Now they're able to minister to him forever because they can carry the ark up. See, that go again to what we were talking about a few weeks ago about doing things according to the due order. You know what I'm saying? We don't do things according to the due order, so how can we profess that Yahuwah is with us? What happened today? What made David sad in regards to the Ark of the Covenant in the book of Samuel? What made him sad? It might not be Samuel, but something happened with the Ark. It made David sad. Somebody touched it and they died. And why did he say, and what did David come back later and say? Because we didn't do it according to the due order. We try to do it how we wanted to do it and have anybody bring it up. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. So what do we see now in the earth? You got a whole bunch of niggas out here claiming they son of Yahuwah trying to bring up the ark. And ain't no covenant with him. Because remember, he did a new thing. He did a new thing. It's a new song in the people's mouths. It's not going to be the same covenant like the other one. He's building the house differently. He built the house first time carnally with men. This time he building it up by the Ruach, and that's totally different. You know what I'm saying? Because one can never endure forever, and one will. Where we at, right? Oh, matter of fact, shoot, he finna say it. Verse 12, and said unto them, you are the chief of the fathers of the Levites, sanctify yourselves, both you and your brethren, that you may bring up the ark of Yahuwah Elohim of Yasharal into the place that I have prepared for it. Because you did it not at the first, Yahuwah Elohim made a breach upon us, for we sought him not after the due order. Now let's look at those words for due order. That's our biggest problem. Now when it says for due order, you know what it says? Mishpat, judgment. We didn't seek him after the judgment of what he has decreed to be right and wrong. The word for sought is darash, and y'all should remember that. That's to resort and to seek with care. We didn't seek with care according to his judgment. That's what we see in the earth now. We're not seeking Yahuwah with care according to the judgment. So that means we're doing it according to our own. We done made an idol out of Yahuwah according to our own understanding, truth be told. So who want to get hit in the head with this bottle? Leave that apple alone. It ain't bothering nobody. Where am I? Verse 14. So the priests and the Levites sanctified themselves to bring up the ark of Yahuwah Elohim of Yasharal. The sons of the Levites bear the ark of Elohim upon their shoulders with the staves thereon, as Moses commanded, according to the word of Yahuwah. So when you bear the ark on your shoulder, guess what? That's what you're really doing. You carrying your stave. Because that's how Yahushua bared the covenant, didn't he? Carried it on his. Remember, Genesis 49 and 14, Issachar was a strong ass, couching down between two burdens. He saw rest was good. So he saw it was good for him to carry that covenant on his shoulder because he knew that that covenant was going to be sanctified by his blood when he was nailed to it. And which in turn began the process of doing what? Setting the foundation for the house, because he's the chief cornerstone. And then Peter was the first rock built upon that house, and then so on and so forth. David spake to the chief of the Levites to appoint their brethren to be singers with instruments of music, psalteries, harps, and cymbals, sounding by lifting up the voice with joy. So David is the one who introduced this. You know what I'm saying? There were no singers until the time of David. Let's look at some of those words for that so you can see what they mean. You're not meaning anything that we really need to look. I think most of them are going to mean exactly what they say they're going to mean. Now, for sounding, you have the word Shema. Y'all know what that is. So they sounded out with a word where the people would hear. And you're singing, and remember, a song is a song of praise. So you're singing praise unto Yahuwah that people will hear, and it takes it back that he put a new song. Don't you realize when you preaching the gospel, that's to the praise of Yahuwah? Why do you think you sit back and you see worship, you're paired to the worship of the highest when you're looking at the word for singer? Because these are people who are paired to the reverence of the highest. And singing songs literally is worshiping the highest. Humbling yourself unto his mighty hand that he may exalt you in due time is worshiping the highest. And again, that goes to the point of why no man should ever get on his knees to anyone, male or female. What did Peter do when them people got on their knees? He told him, get up. I'm a man like you are. When John got on his knees to that angel, what did that angel tell him to do? Get up. I'm of your brethren, the prophets, and a like servant unto you. He said, worship Elohim. Let's take a look at it. Revelation 21, I believe. Is it 21? It's 19. 19? No, I'm in the wrong spot. 22, my apologies. Revelation 22 and 7. Revelation 22 and 6. And he said unto me, these sayings are faithful and true. How Yahuwah Elohim of the Kadash prophets sent his Malachim to show unto his servants the things which must shortly be done. Behold, I come quickly. Baruch is he that keep the sayings of the prophecy of this book. And I, John, saw the things and heard them. And when I heard and seen, I fell down to worship before the feet of the Malachim, which showed me these things. And he said unto me, see, you do it not. For I'm your fellow servant of your brethren, the prophets, and of them which keep the sayings of this book. Worship Elohim. Do you know what I'm saying? Why do you think he told you he'll have these people come down and bow down that you may know? He gonna have them people come worship you, which is to show reverence and honor. Finna be around here bowing, no need of no grown man. And the book tell me not to do that, but to worship Elohim. Not finna do that. And if a person take that as disrespect, they can take it how they want to take it. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not finna do that. Because unless you the king, when you look at the text, the people only bow down to the king. You know what I'm saying? Because again, bowing is a sign of worship. That's why he say every knee will bow and every tongue will confess. You know what I'm saying? That's a sign of worship and reverence. And the only person who was ever commanded to worship and reverence another human being was the wife to her husband. You know what I'm saying? A man is not commanded to worship and reverence. You're commanded to reverence the gray head and to reverence your father, but you ain't supposed to be worshiping no man. I'm not getting on my knees in no man. We can look at that example with Peter. The book of Acts. I think it's chapter 4. Finish that up. What's wrong with your grandma? Acts chapter 14.
Hey, be quiet.
No, that ain't what I want. Acts 14 ain't what I want. Yeah, I can't recall what's that. It escapes me. But I know Peter definitely told Nick to get up. That's just not something you do, because you should be worshiping Yahuwah. You know, you done seen them people had them, them white folks out there bowing down, kissing their boobs. You know what I'm saying? Saying that they fulfilling revelation. They keep licking the dust up off your feet. Yahuwah make the people do that. No white folks don't worship you. They just did that because they felt bad in the moment. They gonna go back to the house and say, I hate niggers. And keep on going about their day. Especially when you're talking about an organization where you're telling them that they can't even join. But the word is a doc, right? It meant righteous. So let's segue up on out of that and swing over here to Job 13. Yeah, but there's only, like I said, there's only 3 instances where you're commanded to reverence somebody. You're commanded to reverence the gray head. That's in Leviticus chapter 19. I give you the exact verse. And that's whether you're male or female, it don't matter. I think it's verse 31. Verse 32, you will rise up before the hoary head and honor the face of the old man. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why the lower head is white, but yeah, you're supposed to reverence, reverence Yahuwah, have reverence for for older people. You're supposed to have reverence for your parents, and the woman's supposed to reverence her husband. Go sit down. Go sit down. Pick it up at Job 13 and verse 6. Go put this in the trash. Take this with you, too. Thank you, sir. Job 13 and 6. Hear now my reasoning and hearken to the pleading of my lips. Will you speak wickedly for Elohim and talk deceitfully for him? That's one thing that Yahuwah does not appreciate. And let's take a look at people doing that. That's 2 Peter chapter 2.
Be quiet. Be quiet. Quiet.
2 Peter chapter 2 and verse 1. He said, but there were false prophets also among the people, even as there shall be false teachers among you, who privily shall bring in damnable heresies, even denying the Lord that brought them, and bring upon themselves swift destruction. And many shall follow their pernicious ways, by reason of whom the way of truth shall be evil spoken of. And through covetous shall they with feigned words make merchandise of you, whose judgment now of a long time linger not, and their damnation slumber not. For if Elohim spared not the Malachim that sinned, but cast them into hell and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved unto judgment. So he's letting you know that these, where you speak wickedly for Elohim. He told you, one thing that we didn't talk about this before. One thing that a lot of brews feel like they have to do? What you think is one thing in regards to what we read in 2 Peter chapter 2 and in Job 13 about men speaking wickedly for Elohim? And in juxtaposition to those 2 points, what do you feel? You see a lot of brews feel like they got to do? Be a witness. What about you, Glover? What you feel like in regards to these false prophets here? Men who speaking deceitfully for Elohim, a lot of brews feel like they got to do. Any one of you can answer as well. Not right now. What about you, Glover? What you feel like a lot of men feel like they have to do? I get that. You know what a lot of brews feel like they have to do? Stop every false prophet that opened his mouth. But don't the book say that they would be here? Remember how we looked at Jeremiah? Did you see Jeremiah felt like he needed to stop Hananiah from talking? He knew Hananiah was lying, and guess what he said? Amen. Let Yahuwah bring it to pass. And he went by this business. I already know this nigga lying. What did Yahushua say about false prophets? He said, if the blind lead the blind. First thing he said was what? Before he said that. What was the instruction he gave his apostles before he said, if the blind lead the blind, they both shall fall in the ditch? What was the instruction he gave? Leave him alone. Leave him alone. Did you see the apostles walk around? Boy, we got to stop these scribes and Pharisees. Now, like Paul said, some niggas walk around teaching things they ought not, and their mouths need to be stopped. But also at the same time, yet nevertheless at the same time, you can't stop everybody out here preaching lies. Did not Mashal say false prophets would arise and increase? You can't stop it. And you know what ends up happening? When you focus all your time trying to stop a false prophet, then you're wasting time that could have been spent on preaching the gospel to somebody who might hear it and believe it. Because you spend all your time to show how phony and flawed they is that you forgot to focus on what's most important. And that's singing that new song so that house can be built. That's called paint chipping. Leave it alone. We good on that. Come back to Job 13. Go open the door. We're in verse 8. He said, will you accept his person? Will you contend for Elohim? Now we're going to look at, when it say person, that's panim, which is face. It's got nasar for will you accept? So will you lift up or bear his face? Will you carry? Will you support? Will you sustain his face? And then you got contend, which is why, which is the strive. And that take it back to the point that that Paul made mention, that he stayed ready for the defense of the gospel. See, there's a difference of arguing and going back and forth and defending that new song. Like, we didn't talk about it before. How many times you see Bruce say, we ain't in the new covenant? That would be a time to defend the gospel. If individuals is mocking about Yahushua's resurrection is not in the script, or no man can die for your sin, that's when you have to defend the faith. Sometimes you have to do that. I have no problem with it. I've done it a few times. What I ain't gonna do though is deal with a dummy. And when I say deal with a dummy, I'm talking about somebody who blasphemes. Because sometimes you're going to deal with somebody, they're going to go to blasphemy. I remember dudes say, oh, y'all believe in a zombie? And I'm going to stop talking to you now. Because that's what Paul does. I'm just following an example in the word. Paul said once they went to speaking evil of that way, he departed. Like, if you speaking evil of the word, what I'm going to sit here and keep going back and forth with you for? Clearly this ain't what you want, and that's okay. You know, you've heaped up coals of fire upon your own head, and that's your business. They ain't got nothing to do with me. Stop it. Continuing in Job 13. He said, your remembrances are like ashes, your bodies to bodies of clay. Hold your shalom and let me alone, that I may speak. Let come on me what will. What's the first thing you should think of when you hear, let come on me what will? What did Yahushua? Didn't Yahushua pray the same thing? Did he not accept the face of Yahuwah and lifted up the face of Yahuwah? He said, I declared your name amongst my brethren. Did he not contend for Elohim or strive for the word? Verse 9. It is good that he should search you out, or as one man mock another, do you so mock him? he will surely reprove you if you do secretly accept persons. Shall not his excellency make you afraid, and his dread fall upon you? Your remembrance are like ashes, and your body stuff clay. Hold your shalom that I may speak, and let come on me what will. Wherefore do I take my flesh in my teeth, and put my life in my hand? Though he slay me, yet I will trust in him, but I will maintain my own ways before him. He also shall be my salvation, for a hypocrite shall not come before him. Hear diligently my speech and my declaration with your ears. Behold, now I have ordered my cause. I know that I shall be justified. Now I want you to look at this. First things first, he said, though he slay me. The word for slay here is katal. It means to kill. You got Kuf, you got Tet, and you got Lamad. So Kuf, Tet, and Lamad, what would you say? Well, let's take a look. You got Kuf, what would you say? Would you say light? Would you say final? What would you choose? Would you say sun on the horizon? Stop, boy. It ain't funny. Hey, come here, cuz. Come here, cuz. Come here, cuz. Didn't I just ask you to stop doing that? But yet you did it and you smiled because clearly you thought I was playing. Do I look like I'm playing to you? Everybody ain't playing with you, cuz that'd be your downfall. Because you think people playing with you. And now look at you now. Look at you now. Go sit down. So you got sun at the horizon, light, circle, time, behind, back of the head, final, least, and condense. We probably say light here. Word went away. So then we got Tet. What will we say for Tet and Lamar? You got contain, to store. Could you look at it and say that you're storing the shepherd's light? Or would you look at it and say that you contain the shepherd's light? Or you contain the teaching of light? Either way it go, or you contain the shepherd's teaching of light. But what do you have? A teaching of life, which is what he said that though I shall be, so she shall slay me. It says, I will what? Trust in him. Again, that's taking us right back to Psalm chapter 40, that he brought me out of a horrible pit of miry clay, and he put a new song in my mouth, a praises to my Elohim, and blessed is he that trusts in Yahuwah, who turn out aside the lies, nor respect the proud. Because let's answer this question. It's an easy question. Y'all should answer this pretty easy. Real easy. Did Yahushua respect the scribes and the Pharisees? Why didn't he respect them? Because they were proud. Their pride. And what does the book tell you that Elohim do to the proud? He resists the proud. He don't fool with them. And what is the book of oh my. That did not go how you planned it. And that's what most of you children problem is. You think somebody playing with you. Then when you get chastised, then you sit around and you go to looking crazy. But I just say that because that's how most adults feel. You feel like Yahuwah playing with you. Then when he chastises you, you want to look how Michael looking, or you want to look how he looking. You know what I'm saying? Go to looking crazy, sniveling and dropping tears, snot bubbles coming all out, and think he's supposed to feel sorry for you. But he don't.
When you say wicked.
When I say what?
When you say wicked.
Wicked?
No, when you say wicked.
I don't understand. Wicked?
Yeah, it's eagles. It's eagle bird.
An eagle bird?
No, eagles.
Ethos?
Yeah.
You don't even know what that is.
Yeah, it's a mole. It's our school. It's our school.
Oh, it's your school?
Yeah, it's our
Oh, it's the school of damnable doctrines. That's what you call it.
No, it was not. It was not.
Yeah, Normandy Village Eagles, the house of damnable doctrines, as I said.
It's Eagles.
No, it's not your school. It's just a place where you currently go to be educated of damnable doctrines, as I stated.
They're not the Dodger school. They're not the Dodger school.
Okay, I'm not concerned with your teacher, but I'm glad you like her.
You don't like school in Sam I am.
You don't like school in Sam I am.
Yeah. Sam I am. I don't like it. Sam I am.
You don't like Sam I am?
Yes, I do.
Oh, you do? Well, I hope you don't like ham. You shaking your head. You ain't never had ham.
Yeah. What about grenades and ham?
Have you ever eaten ham?
No, it's yucky.
Absolutely.
Yucky. I don't like those.
Oh, you don't like those?
Yeah, no.
Well, why don't you like it?
I don't like green ham.
Well, I don't know nothing about no green eggs. If you got green eggs, I would advise you not to eat them. But,
Yeah, I can eat them.
yo, don't eat green eggs.
Yeah, I can.
No, there's probably fungus in there.
Yeah, I like green ham. I do like them.
Well, you don't like no ham. You know why you don't like ham? Because y'all hates ham. Children,
Yeah.
say it with me. Abomination.
Abomination.
And what does that mean? Oh, you don't remember? What you cheesing for over there, little boy?
I see.
What you cheesing for? It means Yah hates it.
Yeah.
So abomination means Yah doesn't like something. He doesn't like ham. It's an abomination. Man with man is what? Evil. It's an abomination. Telling lies is what?
Abomination.
Absolutely right. Do you commit abominations, children? Guess what? Always thinking about doing wrong. Guess what that is? An abomination. And that's what most of y'all do. Sit around and plan mischievous things. You better stop it. Okay, the word for trust here is yakal. And it's to wait, to hope, and to expect. Yad, Ka, and Lamad. So, the work of the shepherd separates. So that work of salvation separates, because what are you hoping for and expecting? To be brought out of that horrible pit of that miry clay so that new song could be put in your mouth, because here is the patience of the saints. Here are those that have the commandments of Elohim and the faith of Yahushua. Job 13 continues. Now, what word do you think is used there for my salvation? And you would be correct, sir. But I skipped over something. And that's maintain. When you look at it, he say he will maintain his own ways. That is Ya'ak. To prove, to decide, and to judge. That's Yad, and that's Kaf, and that is Kat. So what would you say for that? Yad, Kaf, and Kat. Because this is how you judge or approve. So when you look at you maintaining your own ways, you're sure. Remember, it also means to show to be right. Remember what we read last night in Romans 12? That you approve that acceptable and perfect will of Elohim. So when you maintain your ways before him, you're proving, when you believe in Yahushua and the just live by their faith, you're proving that Yahuwah is right. At the end of the day, our lives are to prove that Yahuwah's word is right. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think sometimes that is forgotten. You want to prove that his word is right. So when you do things according to the word, you prove that he is the living Elohim. And that's another way how men are condemned without ever hearing the words of the gospel. If you live according to the word, men are condemned just by being in your presence. Because you living the word condemns them. This is why he say men will separate you from their company. Because you will be a living witness against them and they're not going to want you to be around them. And you don't have to open your mouth. This is why I've always stated, don't always try to win people over and tell them, oh, you need to do this and you need to do that. Your life will do all the condemning you need. And they'll be like, you know what? I don't fool with Cud no more, man. Stop inviting that nigga over here to family functions. Why you don't want him to come around? He don't say nothing. No, I don't like that nigga, bro. All because when stuff come up, you live properly. You got to understand something, man. I've been on TV a long time ago, right? If you was with a woman, right? I'm talking about dealing with a family. Her daddy could be involved in all. And you told him, I like your daughter. I want us to live according to the word. So we're not having sex. I ain't going to live with her. They ain't going to like you. But I guarantee you, if you was living with her and knocking her back loose and fornicating and all type of bastard churn, they going to have no problem with you. Because people love evil more than they love right. And they'll love evil even at the expense of their own family members. Because you would think that people would choose the latter, that an individual will respect your daughter enough to say, I won't enter her body. I'm going to make her an honest woman. I ain't going to live with her and set this bad example. Nah, we don't like that, cuz.
That's evident.
I mean, it is, but I'm just using that example because that's very evident.
That's like a woman choosing a wicked nigga over nigga that's right behind.
No, I'm talking about the family. You know what I'm saying? Like that woman's daddy, uncles, mothers, aunts, and all them, they gonna look at him like they ain't gonna like him versus a nigga who tearing their back loose. That's because he done brought Yahuwah involved. You know what I'm saying? He said, I'm not doing this because I serve Yahuwah, so we're not gonna do this here. And I live a particular way. She agrees with it. They look at it as you taking my daughter from me, my niece from me. So they hate Yahuwah because of it. But this nigga over here who's knocking her back loose, and now you got 3 bastard children. You know what I'm talking about? Bastardized nieces and nephews. They showing up to every baby shower, everything you got going on. They love your dirty draws. This nigga is defiling your daughter though. And you don't have a problem with it. But you got a problem with the nigga who is keeping your daughter pure because they doing it in the name of Yahuwah. You have a problem with that. You know what I'm saying? And I've seen that where people have a problem with that. But you would think, even if the word wasn't involved, even if the word is involved, you would think that a father wouldn't have a problem with somebody that's saying, I'm not going to defile your daughter. And there it is. And there it is. But I'm just showing you that the hatred for the word. And when you say, and what I just mentioned is maintaining what? You're maintaining his ways. You understand? You are showing and proving that his way is right when you do that. See, come over here to Romans 13. See, Mark? See how that happened to you? Look what I just said. Look at what you're doing now. Because you was around here imagining wicked inventions. Look at you. 13:8. Cut? You want some cut on your butt? That's what you want? So you don't want rebuke and chastisement. So that means you ought to do what? Love Yahuwah and obey. Thirteen and 8, Epistle of Romans. Oh, no man anything but to love one another. For he that love another hath fulfilled Torah. For this, you shall not commit adultery. You shall not kill. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness. You shall not covet. And if there be any other commandment, it is briefly comprehended in this saying, namely, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Love work no ill to his neighbor. Therefore, love is fulfilling the Torah. And that knowing the time, that it is now high time to awake out of sleep, for our salvation is nearer than we believe. The night is far spent, the day is at hand. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness, and let us put on the armor of light. Let us walk honestly as in the day, not in rioting, drunkenness, not in chambering, wantonness, not in strife and envying, but put you on the Lord Yahushua HaMashiach, and make no provision for the lust to fulfill, for the flesh to fulfill the lust thereof. You know why he says it's in the daytime? Because, theoretically, people don't do stuff that they don't want nobody to see in the daytime. Because what did Yahushua say in John chapter 3? What happens when the light is shined? You get to see if a person's actions or works are actually in accordance to Elohim. That's why he say the evil don't like to come to the light. Because what's going to happen when they come to the light? Their deeds get exposed. And that's why I use that example of a person who is committing fornication and shacking up with somebody. They don't want to see their daughter doing that because then their deeds get exposed. So when you do that and you showing or if somebody been married 4 or 5 times and you saying we doing things, because I'm gonna be honest with you, and I would have said this before. Y'all know a lot of people know a lot of stuff that book say not to do, and they do it anyway. A lot of people know that book say you ain't supposed to divorce and remarry. You think they care? Who don't follow it? They know it's in there. They know it's in there. And they'll tell you, oh, I know that. I read that in the Bible when I was a child. Well, why you don't follow it then? Because I need me a new husband. You know what I'm saying? I got tired of that woman. I got me another wife. You know what I'm saying? You think people, how many people y'all done ran into? Oh, I know about the Sabbath day. And niggas who found out they a brew, they be thrown. You know about the Sabbath? Why you don't keep it? What you mean why they don't keep it? Oh, you know you ain't supposed to eat pork. That was in the Bible days. I done heard people say that. That was in the Bible days. Well, when did the Bible days stop? When was the cutoff?
The reason for the season, brother.
The reason for the season. Yeah, that's probably when they say when he died and he rose. Oh, that was the Bible days. That's over with now. That was the Bible days.
That's what they all say.
That was the Bible. But no, but some people say that was in the Bible days. They don't say, oh, that's the new covenant Jesus nailed to the cross. That's in the Bible days.
No,
And be dead, tell you, shoot it to you with a straight face. That was in the Bible days. You know what I'm saying? But we believe prophecy being fulfilled in the Bible days. That's what niggas say in the Bible days. Let me wrap this up so we can get out of here, man. Back to Romans 13. Job 13, excuse me. But the key point of when we're looking at it is, right, if you don't put the Lord on, then you're going to make a provision or an opening so that you can commit sin. You have to put him on, and you can't put him on until you die. And then you can sing songs of praise. We definitely didn't get this 8 out today. Y'all willing? We'll get this 8 out one of these days. Now, when it said, I'm thinking about another verse, and I am. We're in verse 16. He said, he shall also be my salvation. The hypocrite shall not come before him. Of course, he correctly and astutely stated that salvation there is Yahusha. That is the name that is there. Yeshua. That's what it says there. Literally. Hear diligently my speech and my declaration with your ears. Of course, when it say hear diligently, it's Shema twice. My declaration is the word akaba, and that is to declare. I'm just mentioning these words so y'all know exactly what it states. The word for my speech is milah, and that is word, speech, or utterance. Meme, lamad, and hey. So you get to sit back and see how Yahusha teaches the Ruach, or teaches things of the Spirit. That's why he said the kingdom of heaven was preached. Were they teaching things of the Spirit during the time of the prophets? No. Was he teaching things of the Spirit in the Torah? No. Well, some people say, well, the law is Spirit. That's what Paul wrote. Don't be an idiot. Don't be an idiot. Don't be a simpleton. You know what I'm saying? We know that the words of Elohim are Spirit, but they weren't teaching of the Spirit. There is a difference. You know what I'm saying? Because if they were teaching of the Spirit, then they would have had access to it. They did have access to it, but what was it not during that time? It wasn't a permanent indwelling. Because did not Saul have a spirit on him? But yet, what was Saul? A certified dummy. A certified dummy. David had a spirit on him, but guess what David went and did? Knocked the nigga wife down and then got the man murdered. Samson had the spirit on him, but yet it wasn't on, but yet it had to come back on him for him to kill all the Philistines at the end. If it was there permanently, it came on, it went on. David, as we mentioned in the past, David is the only person you read from Genesis to Malachi who the spirit fell on, and you never read about it departing. But clearly it had to depart when he knocked down Bathsheba, though. Because you wasn't going to have no spirit in you and knock down another man's wife. Shoot, it would probably have them slid off the bench like this. He said to look at her bait. He said, he had to, that nigga look at the yams. Go. Look at the yams. I'm gonna get them yams. Now he around here trying to do Uriah like that nigga baby boy. Stop calling my house. You know what I'm saying? But that was a mean movie pulled now. That was some duplicity for your behind. Don't nobody knew what he had. And the thing was, nobody knew what he was doing but him. He said, but now I've ordered my cause and I know that I shall be justified. That word for cause is judgment. The word for order is a rock, which is to arrange or set in order. So you want to set in order judgment so you can be deemed and judged righteous. Now, we went through all of that to deal with what the singers were, because everything we looked at was individuals who would sing praise in that house. So I told you, now I'm tell you now, chapter 41 and 42 is not going to have too much exciting for you. It's going to be a lot of measurements of the building. So we may not spend too long on that because it ain't going to have nothing exciting for you. I'm just letting you know that now. But we're trying to go through every aspect of what's mentioned there, and we'll get to Zadok probably, y'all will next week if you see fit, of the things that are contained in that temple. Because if you're going to be a priest of a spiritual priesthood, then you would be a Levite by proxy, or of the order of Melchizedek, if you would. And you would be in the house to be a singer or to sing praise. And you'll be paired to that worship of the highest. And that's what you want to have done. You want to be paired to his worship. You want to go down into that horrible pit and that miry clay and come out with a new song in your mouth. And we'll end with Psalms 40 just to finish that. Mark, get your shirt out your mouth. I don't know what you're laughing for because I'm not laughing. Yeah, see, you one of them children that got to learn the hard way.
I know.
Yeah, you do.
I'm not laughing.
I beg to differ. Psalms 40 and 1. And I didn't get to the part where prepare my habitation, but I'll do it now. I waited patiently for Yahuwah, and he inclined unto me and heard my cry. He brought me up also out of a horrible pit and out of the miry clay and set my feet upon a rock and established my goings. And he put a new song in my mouth, even praise unto our Elohim. Many shall see it, fear, and shall trust in Yahuwah. You don't think when they brought him up out that grave, that the many didn't see, fear, and trust Yahuwah? Paul told you a lot of 1 Corinthians 15. Paul told you a lot of people seen the Lord after he wrote. See, a lot of people seen it. 1 Corinthians 15 and 1. Bird, you need to be quiet.
Okay. I need quiet.
1 Corinthians 15 and 1. More of the brethren, I declare unto you the gospel, which I preached unto you, which also you have received where you stand, by which also you are saved, if you keep in memory what I preached unto you, lest you believe in vain. That's why that's why sometimes we got to go back over stuff. You have to keep that stuff in memory, or else the gospel that's being preached would have been for nothing. I delivered unto you, first of all, that which I also received, how that Mashal died for our sins according to the scriptures, and that he was buried, and that he rose again the third day according to the scriptures, and that he was seen of Cephas, then of the 12, and after that he was seen above of 500 brethren at once, of whom the greater part remain unto this present, but some are fallen asleep. After that he was seen of James, and then all of the apostles, and last of all he was seen of me, also as one born out of due time. So you had sit back, a lot of people seen and they heard, and they feared and they trusted in Yahuwah because of it. Back to Psalm 40. Blessed is the man that make Yahuwah his trust, and respect not the proud, nor as such turn aside the lies. Many, O Yahuwah, my Elohim, are your wonderful works which you have done. Your thoughts which to us were, they cannot be reckoned up in order unto you. If I would declare and speak of them, they are more than can be numbered. Sacrifice and offering you did not desire, my ears have you opened. Burnt offering and sin offering you have not required. Then said I, lo, I come in the volume of the book, it is written of me. I delight to do your will, O my Elohim. Yea, your Torah is within my heart. Because he said a body he prepared for him. And if you want to prepare a habitation for Elohim, then you have to prepare your heart to seek it. And if you prepare your heart to seek him, then you prepare a place for his word to dwell. And if you prepare a place for his word to dwell, then he'll dwell with you. What did we just read the other day? If you seek Yahuwah, what will he do? He'll seek you. And what does the average person don't do? They don't seek Yahuwah. So what are you not doing? You're not preparing a place for him to dwell. What did we read to the children? He that have my words and keep them, he it is that love me, and we will come and make our abode with him. That means that's a person who prepared a place for him to dwell. This is why John say, bring forth fruits meet for repentance. Make yourself a habitation for him to dwell. If you buying a brand new house or a house period or a place to dwell, don't you want it to be in good repair and working order? You want these people to prepare a habitation for you to dwell. Well, you have to do the same thing for your move. So hallelujah for Yahushua in the word. We appreciate everybody's time. Bless everybody out the house of Yahuwah. In the name of Yahushua, Yahuwah willing, we pick it up again next week. But until that time, I'll bid you adieu because I need to relieve my bladder.
I do.
And I just got a notification that nigga just